Welcome back to My Mythical Meta, your gaming podcast that's secretly your friendship podcast. My name's Travis. We got the whole group here. We've got Derek, Benjamin,
hello,
and happy early birthday to Randy.
the baby
Woo!
boy,
34.
little boy.
34.
Yeah, I am the youngest here.
There we go. Happy early birthday, Randy. His birthday is tomorrow. By the time you're listening to this episode, his birthday will have come and gone, and it'll all just be old news in the past. But it matters for us. So happy birthday, Randy. We're so glad that you have continued yet another revolution around our dying star. And that brings us to today's topic. Today's episode comes from a question on Reddit about how to continue gaming after becoming a parent for the first time. How can they continue to be involved in D&D and other games after bringing a new life into our dying world? So that means this week we have got
news from the Warfront.
Oh, it's got a thing going.
I got
fun.
a thing. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Audio that automatically plays. Before we jump in, we have got to thank our patrons. Today's patron shout out goes out to Becky.
Ooh, Becky.
Becky, thank you so
Becky.
much. We always appreciate your generous contribution to the pod. You listeners can also become patrons by going to patreon.com/mymythicalmeta. Go to that website. You can discover our perks. Derek, what is this week's special Patreon perk?
This is the final perk, and that's a real one that I will do. Travis, for the viewer, can you please show your Dragon Age sleeve?
I'm actually
it's got
wearing
long
sleeves
Never
today.
mind. You'll just take my word for it. The man's really into Dragon Age,
It
right?
goes from here to here.
Yeah.
It's all Dragon Age stuff.
It's got Dragon Age 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been playing Dragon Age Veilguard. Loving it. Travis has not.
I have not.
If a patron would like to, if we got a new patron, I will spoil the entirety of Veilguard to Travis on this podcast televised. Let me tell you what he's getting into. I have, let's see, 136 hours in this game since Halloween. It is December 2nd.
Derek, don't do this to me.
136 hours. I have played one entire playthrough. I've got every achievement that can be got. I'm almost through with my second playthrough.
Derek,
So if you want me to spoil this thing through and through, you sign up.
I'd be so sad.
All right, you know what? Ruin his life. It means the world to him, and you have a chance to ruin that.
I have been waiting for someone to get me Dragon Age Veilguard for Christmas. I'm almost certain it's going to happen. I don't know where it's going to come from, but so please don't let it be Derek.
I don't know.
Because Derek won't get me the game.
I mean,
Derek
I'm
will
pulling
just
up Patreon
tell
right
me
now.
the game.
I'm pulling up Patreon right now. I'm
Then
about
Randy's
to sign in.
The game
Patreon.com/mymythicalmeta. If you like our show, please make sure to subscribe, click that bell icon, comment who you think is going to swear or cuss first. This is a family-friendly show, but we are still just 4 elder millennials who can't control ourselves. Who do you think will swear or cuss first? And
I think
last,
Randy.
It's gonna be Derek.
It's gonna be Randy.
if you have got
definitely not gonna be me.
advice for our listener today about continuing to play games after spawning children into our dying planet, leave a comment. Leave a comment. I'm going to go back into Reddit. I'm going to post this episode on the original post. That way the listener can come back. Let's leave some advice for them in the comments, because you know what they find in the video probably won't be that helpful. If you're a gamer with kids and you know how to make it work, you know the secret sauce, let them know in the comments. All right. Today's news from the Warfront comes from our D&D, and this person's asking, I'm about to become a first-time parent. Will I still have time for gaming? Will I still have time to play D&D? This person says, how can I continue playing D&D while still being a good and attentive parent? Here are some details about their group. They play once every 4 to 6 weeks on average, so every month or every other month. Their sessions typically last about 4 hours, and the location they play is only 15 minutes away from his house. It's nice. Yeah,
I'm jelly.
that's a whole lot better than our situation was this year. Kristen and I have been talking. We have played D&D 0 times this year. Oh, I'm sorry, Randy.
Well, it's not like he's been on a dry spell. We've played World of Darkness and we played
That's
Martian
true,
Colony.
yeah.
Martian Colony.
But
Yeah.
the group with the girls
Yes.
did not fire off this year. Kristen does feel guilty for that.
Oh, it's fine.
It's entirely her fault, so that she should be feeling bad about it.
She's the one who was giving Randy grief for not wanting to watch Moulin Rouge when she plays D&D for him.
I've
I
seen
mean, he
Moulin
didn't play
Rouge.
Moulin Rouge, so why should she have to play D&D?
I've
I
seen
don't know.
Moulin Rouge.
I don't know.
I've
Yeah,
seen
but
it
it's
now.
but Randy, it's about the community experience.
It's a give and
though.
take, a compromise.
It's the
I
group
watched it with the
experience.
group.
Not
Oh
to
yeah, you were
play.
there for that, were you?
Yeah.
For that group texting. So we were not able to get together this year. When we do play, our sessions are usually between 4 to 6 hours, if we can. And the location we play at for Kristen and I is about an hour when we play at Derek's. I will say that since our home renovation was completed, we've hosted a few more times. Never for D&D, but we've hosted Magic. We've hosted
Model building.
model building and painting days. So maybe that could be another solution that gets us gaming a little more often. Something we'll bring up a little bit later. This person in their post says that the tentative plan, and as we know, things will most likely, of course, change after this child has come into the world. The tentative plan is to skip 1 or 2 sessions after the baby's born and then rejoin the campaign. They say, I've discussed this with my wife. She's on board. I told her I'd be happy to cover parental duties during her hobbies if she would do the same. I think that sounds good. That sounds like an ideal compromise. And this person's asking, does it sound realistic? And they said, if anybody's got experience being a new parent playing D&D, they want to hear our perspective.
I just want to say real quick, as someone, caveat, as someone with no kids, I just feel like where there's a will, there's a way.
Randy is sworn to celibacy.
That's the
Not
reason.
sworn to it, cursed to it.
No. Me and my girlfriend have just,
Okay.
not for us. But anyway, I think that where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
I think if it's important enough to you, and not to say that, if it doesn't happen, that's not important to you. But it's like, well, I gotta, if you really want to do it, you'll make time. If it's like, oh, well, we gotta get a babysitter. It's like, okay, well then you'll cut something else to have money for the babysitter. If it's, if it's a budgetary thing, it's like, I feel like where there's a will, there's a way. If you want to do it, you should be able to find a way to do it. Having a kid shouldn't be like, well, my life's over. Everything's devoted to this child now.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like, who would sign up for that?
Kristen and my solution a couple times is to try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Family wants to see the baby, and so we want to let them see the baby while we go play D&D.
This is your problem.
So to do the family babysitter was one option, but I do certainly agree with Randy about making time, and I have kind of a few points that I want to hit. I have one child, she's 3 years old, and I feel like we did a decent amount of gaming when she was 1 and 2, and
Newborn.
Yeah, newborn 1. We got enough gaming in there, but it's just so hard this year as she's more and more conscious. She demands more and more attention and input. Yeah, you've got to provide stimulus directly for her. And this has only happened a few times, but Marin will literally say, Dada, can you put your phone away, please?
Yeah.
Like, that is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And you know the same thing is going to happen if we're all playing D&D around her and she doesn't have something to stimulate her.
She's just a few short years away from rolling up and playing herself.
Yeah. A few
Just
short years away.
5, maybe 6 years old, maybe.
Yeah.
Get
To the
her
point
first
where
character.
like she can play my wizard's familiar or something. Is my bird. Marin is
She
my owl or whatever.
She is the group mascot.
Or the dog. Yeah, like all of those things are options. The first thing I want to say, of course, is congratulations on
Yay.
your spawn. That's great. The world needs it.
Yep. And you're
And
winning. You're winning.
In this cruel game of life where the planet is against you, if you manage to add a new player to your household, that is how your household continues. So The Sims, Agricola, new family member, even without room in your home. Like,
That's right.
that's how your child is worth victory point.
Right.
So congratulations. Whatever solution you decide to come up with, as we discuss it, as you've gotten feedback on Reddit or whatever, it all depends entirely on what maintains a healthy relationship between you, your partner, and your child. And I will be the first person to say that your relationship with your partner and your child should take priority over playing D&D or your other hobbies. Okay, the love that y'all share and the community that you build in your own household should take priority. Now, you've already heard me admit that Dungeons & Dragons gaming, role-playing, has taken a back seat in our group since I've had a kid. And this past year, even though we didn't play D&D, we did still hang out a lot with our main group with the girls. But we favored other types of hangouts. We did other things. We did movie days at somebody's house, or pickleball at the park, or going out to dinners, or playing party games, or light board games, rather than a really attention-heavy game like a role-playing game where everyone needs to know what everyone is doing. Because both Kristen and I are in our D&D group together, we can really only play if we have a sitter. And we've tried, and like I said, we did it when she was a newborn, where you know, she can sit in somebody's lap while we play, but it's gotten to the point now where this is only an option if we decide that a full day of screen time is okay. And it is occasionally, but that's not something that we want to do every, month. It's not something we want to do, certainly not one night a week like a lot of D&D groups are.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a sacrifice we've had to make. Because Marin needs more attention and input, we have to choose activities that accommodate for split attentions between me, the activity, and Kristen and Marin. Like, I need to be able to pay attention to all those things at the same time. And because in D&D, it doesn't accommodate that.
Yeah.
So
Can I, so just kind of for the listener, if you don't know, I have 3 children, and possibly by the time this episode comes out, I'll have a 4th, because my wife is this big. Like, yeah. So anyways, and my oldest is 10, so I've been doing this for 10 years now, trying to game with family. And here is one way, Travis mentioned trying to find things that you can, where you can accommodate your child's need for attention and input and such, because, as a child, I'll just tell you, nothing's worse than being the only child in a room where a bunch of adults are ignoring you, right? But so here's how you
just have that thought in mind. One child in a room full of grown-ups and they're all ignoring you. That sounds heartbreaking.
Yeah. Yeah. And for the adults that are trying to do an adult activity, it's really annoying to have that child seeking attention, especially at key points, right? One way around that, and then I'll let Travis get back to his thing, is you might have to change up your gaming group a little bit to find groups that have children of similar ages, and they will entertain each other.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things is when we go visit my wife's siblings, my in-laws, they have a bunch of kids, and then we have a bunch of kids, and it doesn't matter. They just all go off to their room. They play dress up. They'll play on the trampoline. They'll do all these other things. And of course, there's still interruptions because somebody hurt somebody or whatever. Somebody's hungry. Somebody needs to go to the bathroom. But you can get games in that way because they will self-police. They were, especially the older the kids are, the easier it is for them to spend some time, or even the older kids kind of playing with the younger kids, but being the first line of defense to let the adults do things. So it does, I mean, for real, you know?
That's funny. Your older kids are your linebackers.
Right?
Defend us. So
They
we
got the
can
blind
play
side.
D&D.
So that's, so all that to say that, that obviously that won't work in a group like this where the only other person with kids is Travis, and he's not going to entertain his child's not going to entertain my 10-year-old, right? So now my 10-year-old's fairly good at entertaining herself. She loves to read, she loves to draw, stuff like that, but it's still not great to be a 10-year-old in a group of adults that's ignoring you. So finding a group of friends, and that becomes easier the older your kids get because they're in activities, right? They're in sports, they're in clubs, they're in whatever. And if you are deliberate about making friends with your kids' friends' parents, then gaming does become easier. So we did that a lot before I moved back to Houston, finding friends with similarly aged kids. And then when I'm not gaming with these guys, we try to make a point of gaming with other people with kids, and it's not D&D. Mostly it's board gaming that I'm able to do that with, but it is a way to keep gaming.
Derek, Randy, did y'all have anything else you wanted to add in right here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that covers everything.
Derek, I think that covers everything.
I mean, like, what else to
He's
say, you
like,
know?
he's like, episode's over. Let's just.
Pack it up. Let's go to bed.
Not quite. I've got a few more golden nuggets of wisdom here to share. So Kristen and I are in the same D&D group. So the fact that we both need to be free in order to play is what makes it harder to play. However, when I play Magic, I do feel like I'm in this toaster's position where, you know, if Kristen's not busy, then we can take turns doing our hobbies. Kristen has her nights where she goes out for book club, or where sometimes she and Derek's Kristen want to do an Ulta trip together, or anyway. You and your partner, this is one way you can do it, is to take turns doing your hobbies. You take turns, you know, and I'm not saying do this by schedule, by weekend, or whatever. In fact, I think you should spend most weekends together as a family. As it comes up, and as you find your hobby days coming, take turns. And the person staying home accepts responsibility for the child during those hours. Now, make sure that when your hobby day comes up, that you've done your share of the household duties. Do your bonus chores. Do things that ensure that your partner is not overwhelmed. In the case, and I'm just going off what I read in the description, he says, my wife and I are expecting our first child soon. You know, in my head, I've made an assumption that this is a father and mother. You've got to pay very close attention to the mother's needs, especially right after a child's born.
Yeah.
Their body is going through a transformation that you cannot fathom.
Yeah. And postpartum, it can hit like a truck.
Like your wife's body was generating tons of chemicals and hormones, enough for two people. Her body was generating enough hormones for two people. And now that one of those people has separated from her body, it has to rebalance and stuff. So please make sure that you're paying very close attention to those needs. It might only mean skipping 1 or 2 sessions at the beginning, but it might mean more. You know, you need to be paying very close attention to that. So that's one thing, is taking turns. Once you've achieved a balance and maybe your kid's got a routine, if you're able to get your kid to sleep at a good time, play in the evenings. And that was one of my next things, is like, your schedule is going to fill up faster than ever now. Once you have a kid, every spare minute is occupied now, right? Like, you as the father, every spare minute is occupied. And so now, because there's a child there, It depends on you. So now, for every moment you want alone, you're going to be carving away from that. And then a lot of other people are going to want your time too. Your family is going to want to see you more and more often. And I don't just mean your partner and your child. Your child wants to see you all the time. And that will never end. Well, it might end someday.
Yeah,
But
sorry. It'll feel terrible when it does.
But your in-laws, your parents, everyone who loves your child and everyone who loves you is going to want to everyone who loves your child will want to see you more often because they want to see your child more often. So that's more weekends that have been carved out of your life now because your dad wants to come up and visit for a day, or your grandma wants you to bring your kid to visit for a weekend. Like, every spare weekend is going to start getting taken up. You'll make friends with other parents with kids. As Benjamin was saying, that's great, but it might not be your D&D group.
Yeah.
So you might make new friends, and those new friends are going to be good for you and your kid, but we're saying it might not be D&D. I've made plenty of new friends. I've got a longtime listener of the pod, Steven. He came and visited us at Comic Palooza. Y'all might not have seen it on Facebook. He and his Ghostbusters group were in the Macy's Day Parade this year.
Cool.
Really?
Yeah, isn't that
Good
cool?
job, Steven.
Yeah.
So,
The one year
but
they don't televise it.
I met him at my daughter's swim lessons, and probably next week we're gonna go to the park together, like just us and the girls.
Cool.
But so he's really cool and he's a great guy, but he's not my D&D group.
Yeah.
So your schedule is gonna fill, and you will be tired. Every weekend where you realize that nothing was planned and it is just you and your small family, those are gonna feel like blessings
Mhm.
of being like a screen time day with Marin. Oh, thank God.
And you're going to want to sleep in and take a nap and go to bed early.
Yeah. Yeah. So not just from your newly filled schedule, whatever activities your kids got, all the new friends you've made, your family, but raising a kid takes energy too. So
Mhm.
you're just going to be tired. So all of that boils down to what Randy said at the beginning is if you want to play D&D, if this is a passion of yours and you want it to continue, you will have to prioritize it. You will have to sacrifice stuff in order to keep it going. So schedule it on your calendar, and it sounds like that's what your group does, but you have to keep it. Even if you're tired, if that day comes up and you've scheduled it 3 weeks in advance and you're like, oh, I'm beat, you can make the choice to be beat and be tired.
Mhm.
But if you make that choice, you don't get to play D&D that week, or you don't get to play D&D for the next 4 weeks or whatever the schedule was. So when it comes up, you have to keep it, even if you're sleepy. It will be very easy to let a hobby like D&D slip away. So you've got to prioritize it and keep it, even if you're tired. Now, there is lots of good advice for this, advice for prioritizing and making time to play. One is you can shorten your gaming sessions. If 4 hours is too long, try to shorten it to 2 or 3. Try to say, maybe we'll go out to lunch together and I need to be home by 4, or
Yeah.
things like that. So that's some time, but it's not such a burden on your partner and your kid that it's unbearable or stress inducing. Some others that I saw, I mean, you've got lots of great responses in your post already, but playing online, cutting commuting time and being able to, at an instant, drop what you're doing to put out a fire, like that's a convenience that can't be beat in a lot of places.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider, playing online. We managed to do this podcast where we spend about an hour, sometimes 2, once a week. We couldn't do this in person.
Mhm.
Like, that's simply impossible. We live far away, but being online, my daughter's on the other side of this room right now. So if there's an emergency, I can stop the podcast and go deal with that.
Yeah.
Y'all know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And hosting at your house is another option. If if your D&D group, if they're good friends and they really love you, then they might not judge you on a messy house or a house that has a kid. And being at home with your family is another way to lighten the load on your partner, even if you're playing D&D with your friends there. Just being on the premises, being on site is a way to lower the stress there.
Yeah.
So that was some of the advice that I wanted to provide, some things that have helped us to maintain a group where we still play Magic, we still do our hobbies, and even though we haven't done D&D, we still have managed to maintain a healthy friend group, even despite me having a child. You know, according to Randy, this terrible burden.
I had never called Marin a burden. Marin, when you're watching this 10 years from now, I never called you a burden. Now, the
Why?
dogs, your dogs,
The
burdens.
dogs are absolutely a burden.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. If
Both
this
y'all. My
episode
dog
were
is
about
awesome.
Benjamin's,
I don't know Benjamin's
Benjamin-
dog very well. but-
Benjamin's like, exactly. You don't know my dog
You've
very well.
never heard of-
Exactly.
I guess except for that one time it caught a skunk. Y'all did hear about that one.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
while
that's
we were
right.
podcasting.
While they're recording.
Benjamin can leave his dog outside for 4 days and Scout will be fine.
It's true.
It's crazy. So
Because the scout's prepared.
so that was some of my things. Kristen may not like it, but I especially love hosting at my house now. Having this new upstairs room, this new addition that I'm in, it's been awesome.
It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Because, even Derek and Randy came over that one time when it was just me and Marin, because Kristen was off somewhere else. Marin managed to entertain herself for quite a bit of the time on the TV. She's 3, and the screen days don't come that often. Anyway,
Just
they're
pop
there.
on some iron-blooded orphans. She doesn't know what a war crime is. It's fine.
Oh, that's funny.
She's like, genocide? What's that, Daddy? Like, I don't know.
Daddy, what's a child soldier?
What's apartheid?
I want to be a child soldier when I grow up.
Or for iron-blooded orphans in particular, Dada, what's human debris?
Oh no.
Oh boy. We have
So,
fun.
but anyway, hosting at your house, I have really enjoyed because I love being at my own house and because my friends love me. And, as long as I do my basic cleaning, then it
Yeah.
works out. Okay, now Benjamin has his own complete guide on
Well-
what to expect when you're expecting. So,
Well, I realized what I wanted to talk about is when you're having your first kid, in your head, you think about how can I continue my current life but add a child to it?
Yeah.
And I will be the first to admit that when we had our first child, we didn't change a whole lot in the early years. Our now oldest, but back then our first child was the best baby who would just sit there contentedly. You could pass her around and we would play games.
yeah,
And so our lifestyle, except for just bringing the baby wherever we went, was basically the same. Playing games, staying up late, playing games, doing whatever we wanted, game related or not, right? The biggest change was probably we just didn't go to the movies as often. And otherwise, we went out to eat, we had friends over to play and whatever. As we got a little bit older, things did change. The truth is that having kids, especially if you have multiple kids, and once they start getting older and needing more input and attention and such, your priorities change. So Travis and Randy have made a good point of if you prioritize it, you can do it. But there suddenly is this having children changes you in some pretty fundamental ways because suddenly, getting married does too. Getting married, having a child, those two things are where suddenly you are expressing to the world that something is more important than yourself. And gaming is important. Community is important. Taking time to recharge is important. Exercising your mind is important. All of those things that the whole reason we have a gaming podcast is because we do think that it is healthy and good to do this. And your priorities will change. And the way you choose to spend your time will change. Your money, right? Having a child doesn't mean you got extra hours at work. So all this came at a cost that right? Like this game, I had to choose between buying diapers and buying this, and I just let my child pee on the floor for. No, I'm just no. That's but honestly, the especially for parents is where I will support Derek in the proxy your cards debate, right? Like you go from getting the collector's versions to getting the base versions, right? Kids will destroy things. Just get the cheapest copy of a game. Buy them used. There are lots of used games out there you don't need to buy them new. And
Yeah.
actually, a good chunk of these, if they're not deluxe edition, like this top row here, then a bunch of these, like over here, are used games or ones or hand me downs or whatever. They play the
Nice.
same, and they're a lot cheaper, and you don't mind your kids getting into them quite as much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, food kids eat because they're growing. Sometimes they eat as much as a grown up does, and the older they get, the worse it is. And you got to feed them. You don't have the choice. So that might
Marin, on the other hand, is like every food is lembas bread.
just last her forever.
One scoop of grated cheese is enough to sustain a grown man.
I
I
mean,
remember when Marin put away like 4 slices of pizza that one day. She was beating
See,
it up.
And some days it's like that. Guys, today we made jambalaya. I love a good sausage jambalaya. Got broccoli in there. Marin had 2 little handfuls of grated cheese and would not eat her dinner. And she was like, I'm full. It's like, get out of here.
2 a.m. She would be like, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
It's like, sounds
Well,
like a personal problem.
At one point, she wanted yet more cheese. And I said, eat every piece of broccoli and you can have more cheese. And she wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't do it either.
Well,
For cheese?
Well, then I was like, eat every piece of sausage, eat all of one of those, and you can have more cheese. Wouldn't do it. Not hungry.
Interesting.
This is a
And then-
food that she has eaten many, many times.
Yeah. The kids are like that. They're crazy.
Toddlers
With
with food, listener.
Yes.
Be ready.
Yep. Be
Just-
ready.
Okay.
Uh,
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So the things about time, money, emotional commitments, responsibilities, those are all about prioritizing, and you'll figure out where gaming and spending time with a specific group of friends falls on your priority list, and that's how much you will game. Just wherever that is. In some ways, your desire to game will change, or the types of games you want to play will change. So I really want to talk about this sensibilities or sensitivities thing, where when you're a grown adult and you've got your morality situated, whatever that is, and you're like, you know what? I know when I see things I don't like, and I don't care. Get that dirt off your shoulders, whatever. But sometimes you're okay with something, and you suddenly, after you have a kid, you go, I'm okay with that, but I'm not ready for my kid to be exposed to that yet. Right? Fan service in your game. The violence depicted on Magic cards.
Randy, we should play Tanto Cuore next time.
No.
Next time we hang out for Christmas, let's play Tanto Cuore.
What is that?
I bet Marin would love that.
Yeah.
Would love the
Imagine
artwork on that game.
We've got 2 days. We've got barely any time together a year, and that's how we spend it.
Hey, we played
What?
it one time.
Benjamin, Tanto Cuore is a maid simulator.
They made
Okay.
deck building.
A maid deck building game.
Okay.
It had been played one time, Christmas, Friendsmas, when you bought it for me, and it's never been opened since. I'm gonna admit, I went to Montag's as one of their trade days. No one looked at it.
Oh man.
No one gave us. They're like, what? No.
Dang.
Actually, I heard the creators were thrown in prison for making that game. It was crazy.
Are you being serious, Derek, or making
Yeah,
that up?
look it up.
I wouldn't be surprised.
You just want me to type Tanto Cuore into Google.
Hadakori
It's-
CP.
Sabotage my
Don't do that.
sabotage my algorithm.
But not just fan service. Like, okay, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that my most commonly played color in Magic is black, depicting zombies and death and all of that.
Murder.
Skulls
I mean-
and spines being ripped from bodies.
Absolutely, and I love it. I love it.
the
Or
art,
in half.
the art
Everything
on,
about it. But I
on
don't.
lots of Magic cards can be downright gruesome.
Yeah, and I have
but
to.
we've been playing for so long that we've kind of been desensitized to it. But just your average zombie card. I was building a new deck the other day and I stumbled across Nested Ghoul,
Yeah,
which
I love
is
that card.
a zombie with lots of other zombies crammed into its back.
You know, a lot of the vampire cards are very sexualized, right?
Yeah.
Because just the lore that goes along with vampires, you know.
People make entire decks of thirst trap.
Yeah,
Enthralling Victor.
Is that
yeah,
the dude
yeah.
with the
With
goblins?
the abs. Yeah, he's got
Enthralling
abs.
Victor's got
Like
eight.
an 8-pack.
Yeah, he's got an 8-pack out there. There
Yeah.
was a thirst trap competition, male thirst trap magic cards.
Oh
And
yeah,
everybody's like, man, Victor just does it for me. Like his name is Victor instead of
right.
just enthralling Victor. Yeah.
Yeah, and see, like, I don't have a problem with that. I'm not worried about it giving me negative body image, right? But I am worried about that for my kids, and I'm worried about,
Yeah.
you know, when you have young kids, you'll realize how much like random things that you never think of will give them nightmares. It's like they might see something that you think will give them a nightmare, and they're like, that was fine. They don't even notice it, and then some random thing from some kids movie that it wasn't even on your radar, and now
Yep.
you've got to sleep with a kid for the next week.
My niece, she was terrified by Jim Carrey's Grinch. Like Jim Carrey wearing all the Grinch makeup and all that stuff in the
That
movie.
scares me to this day.
Absolutely terrified. So I gotta watch it.
That is hysterical.
Yeah.
For the first 2 years of Marin's life, we watched a ton of horror movies. Nothing.
Yeah.
But
I mean, but
just
she doesn't know what horror is at that point.
well,
Exactly.
just earlier today, we were watching Spidey and His Amazing Friends, and Green Goblin had a laughing gas machine, and it freaked her out.
Mm-hmm.
She started like cuddling up to me and saying, "I'm scared of Green Goblin's laughing gas."
Just messes her up.
Yeah. I mean, there's that. Any type of gaming or media is always subject to advertising. So, like, even if you buy a game that or are playing in a space that you are completely fine with, the advertisers will just stick something random that you're like, oh no, don't look at that, kids. That's not what I want you to be exposed to. Stay away from the Warhammer. No, not just for the the ick factor, but also because you want them to be wise with their money. You know, and sometimes games have messaging, and this, no matter what your political or religious persuasion, there's always messaging. There's messaging on both sides, which is good, right? Like being exposed to diverse views, you know, whatever it is, that's good. And for adults, that's fine. But for kids, you really want to give them whatever your personal foundation is as a way to, you know, as a building block. And I know that the childless ones are sitting there going, no, let them be exposed to everything. But how would you feel if your kid became a Nazi because you let them watch this?
Because you let them play that one expansion of Tanto Cuore.
The Nazi one.
Like all
The
of us
Nazi
have,
The Western Front.
but you never know. Like, I've got Axis and Allies over here, and you just pick a side. There's not necessarily a moral choice in picking a side. Somebody's got to play the Axis powers, right? But you never, like, I remember that, like, growing up and being fascinated by the Civil War. Well, now
Yeah.
as an adult, I know that the South were wrong for a lot of reasons, right? But as a kid, I kind of identified a little bit with a lot of things about the South because I was fascinated by media or games and playing the South's side in a game, right? And being like, that's me. I defended them. Woohoo!
Taking Texas history in the 7th grade doesn't help.
Ooh,
True.
no.
So
They watch
real.
a lot of stuff.
yeah. I have a really fun Civil War game that you know, somebody has to play the South. And in fact, I think playing the South in that game is more fun. Like, and I actually feel like playing the Axis and Allies is more fun. Now I think about it, because they're playing, you know, obviously, like the other side has the inevitability. So I like the
So
risk.
that's what I should have said at the beginning. Comment who you think will sympathize with the South first.
No,
No,
it's coming.
like-
It's coming.
Comment with who sympathizes with fascism first. Got it.
So there you go.
It was Benjamin.
Won't be me.
Point being, you need to, as a parent, establish right and wrong with your kids, whatever you think that is.
Yeah.
Before you expose them to situations in games where they might find the other side sympathetic, and that's especially true in a game like D&D. where you're going to create a character that may not be in line with your morals, but it's different because it's a game in a completely different setting, in another world where the same situations and the same histories don't exist, right?
Yeah.
Like playing, we had episodes talking about alignment. Playing a chaotic evil character can be fun. It can be good for storytelling, can be interesting for character dynamics, and it can be just fun to imagine yourself in another situation. But being chaotic evil in real life is just bad. And, adults can know the difference better than kids. So there's that sort of messaging and stuff that you don't want. Your priorities as a parent, you'll suddenly be like, these games that I loved so much, in my college days, I don't want my kids around them yet. And then they get put away, they get put on the top shelf,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
then because they're on the top shelf, they don't get pulled out. And it's the same with D&D. I literally have not played a single role-playing game except with these guys, because I just, part of that's the time, the money, all the other stuff we've talked about. But a big chunk of that is because I haven't found something that I'm interested in just having my kids dive headfirst into yet. And the older ones are getting there. I did a very basic, like, just scenario. Okay, a fireball is careening down your town. What are you doing? And the kids, had a great time.
That's awesome. You should have live
Taking my
streamed
shirt
that.
off and I'm
Content.
I should
God,
have.
Benjamin.
They loved it. I forget what it was. I think I named like a character Billy Bob, and then their wife Bob Illib, something like that. And I need to go ask what it was because they loved the character that just had the name backwards.
That's funny. That's awesome.
So there's all sorts of ways to get your kids to where you are emotionally, morally, whatever, and also in gaming. And there's a path, but your priorities will change. There's listening. It was Bilbert. Bilbert and Treblib. That's what it was.
Bilbert and Treblin. Okay, that's pretty good. I like that a lot.
Okay. Yeah. Anyways, I don't know where I was going with all that, but it's amazing how much my gaming habits changed from having kids, not because it wasn't a priority, but simply because I was like, well, what do I want to have out for my kids to be exposed to regularly?
Yeah.
And it was different. They haven't seen
Yeah.
every Gundam show.
Yeah, that's what I feel like your
Yeah.
point was. It's like, it's not that you loved gaming any less, but I guess I'm gonna steal this last line from your outline, is that you love your family more than gaming. Like,
Yep.
for the first time in your life, there's something there that is more important, and like, this kid is looking at you thinking, this is the coolest person in my life. For a while. You've got a little while where that's true.
I was like, enjoy it while it lasts.
But I think it really is it's gonna change the way you prioritize the other things in your life. And if you choose gaming, it can still happen. You
Yeah.
can still do it.
We've got episodes on that, and I think it's wonderful to game with your family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything else you guys wanted to share? I think this is a marriage that we've preemptively saved. What do y'all think?
Yeah.
Hey, listener, any first-time listeners, we've saved 2 marriages in our News from
2
the
marriages.
Warfront series. Oh, is it 3?
I think it's 3. Yeah.
I've lost count.
Can't count all these marriages.
We've saved all these marriages. So, new listeners, we're pretty good at this. We're actually experts, especially in marriage saving. So, if you follow our advice, and listener, poster, if you're the original poster, follow our advice and save your marriage before it goes wrong. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Randy, how can people contact us directly with their own questions or directing us to possible News from the Warfront scenarios?
MyMythicalMeta@gmail.com.
Beautiful. Derry, how
Yeah,
can
that's
people
great.
find our Patreon?
You've never asked me that question. I've never known. Skip me. Pass.
Hey, Benjamin, how can people find our Patreon?
they can go to patreon.com/mymythicalmeta.
Thank you guys so much. Listeners, thank you guys for your time, your clicking that bell icon, your comments. Thanks for clicking subscribe and increasing our analytics in YouTube and Spotify. Derek, Benjamin, Randy, thank you guys for being my great friends. Adios.
Later.
Bye.
This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This episode was edited by me, Travis Konishek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos.